welcome back. This is episode 3 in the series about the prepared environment. And in this episode, we want to talk about the actual materials of the classroom. So, episode 2 was about the child and their movement. This is about the materials a little bit more. Just imagine if a child walks into a classroom that's cluttered and dirty. What a strong message that sends to them. Same with places in your home too. None of us are perfect. I've got messes in my house. We've got things to work on. But the better we can do with that, the more we can model that, the more safe and secure and just the happier a child will be. So hopefully, if you're a classroom teacher or you have a at-home sort of schooling situation, you have a pretty clean and uncluttered, almost a minimalistic space for children to be in. It used to be when I started in education, you made all the bulletin boards and put up posters and banners everywhere and stuff like that. Well, generally, that's not so good. You want to be extremely intentional about how you decorate and arrange things like that in the classroom. And if you can't fully justify it, like maybe having an alphabet on the wall is a good idea. But if you can't fully justify it, don't put it up. Lean way on the side of not putting things up, keeping it simple. If something goes up on your walls, or outside the classroom or in the living room or whatever, let it be the children's work, not yours. So the environment itself is the child's sort of first teacher in a way. It's what they see when they walk in on day one. It's what they're experiencing all the times that you're not talking with them or working directly with them. They are interacting with that space a lot. And so for a young child, sometimes it's a large portion of their lives. They could spend a year in a classroom, say when they're 5, and it's a good proportion of their entire lifetime has been in that room. So it's important in that way. So in a Montessori classroom, materials are arranged usually in order on a shelf. So it depends on which shelf, like whether they're low down or high up. Sometimes it's by who needs to reach things, like I mentioned, I think in episode 1. Sometimes it just is supposed to show the continuum of whatever topic it is. Say you're talking about reading time. Well, Montessori time is on the history shelf. And so you want to have those progress across the shelf, across and then down, across and then down, all of your levels of time practicing work. And you want those things to be, again, very intentional and planned out where they're at. Most of my career, have had things by subject area, and that's generally a good idea because you want children to know where to find things, right? I've found that I've sometimes labeled shelves with what topic area they are, say zoology or biology or whatever. But I kind of feel more loose about that as the year goes on. I'm kind of okay with saying to a child, like, I want you to try to go find what is the geometry shelf. Because I feel like they should know that after a couple months or have a pretty good guess at it. So having a more sort of structured, like very clear labeling or identifying, maybe pointing those things out in the first week or 2 of school. You're pointing things out a lot. But I'm okay. I like the idea of backing away from that and letting children take ownership of that more as they go. And your shelves and your arrangement of your classroom should support that. You want to model how to return things, how to get things off the shelf and how to return things, how to return them correctly, how to get them in the right spot. What if somebody else puts something in that spot while you're using it? How do you move things? How do you set them down? How do you hold something with 2 hands? Why do you hold something with 2 hands? What are the reasons that we walk in the classroom? instead of skip or run or whatever. Those things come out with a lot of teachers naturally anyway, because they can be a safety thing, but it's good to talk about why, not just don't do this, don't do that, but explain it to children. And that would be true of a home environment too. I can't stress enough simplicity. Keep it simple. Don't have extra things on a shelf. Don't stack things and have it real cluttered. In a perfect world, I know there's budgets to consider for sure, but like ideally you would have a lot of wooden shelves, wooden boxes, natural things, and a couple things per shelf laid out neatly with space between them, not all piled and pushed. So, if you feel like a shelf is too cluttered, maybe think about like, what are we actually using? What have we used in the last couple weeks or the last month? If no one's touched it, maybe rotate it into your cabinets or storage, and get out something different. That's your job as the teacher, is to identify that and keep rotating and moving things. Or perhaps certain things are not even taught until later in the year or the next year or something. It's okay to move those things off the shelf if no one is using them. It keeps them in better condition and kind of protects them, and it makes your shelves less cluttered, for sure. Everything has its purpose and its place. So you and the children should know where things go to. It shouldn't just be random. Like, you should never say sort of broad statements like, oh, that can go anywhere over on that counter, or just anywhere in the language area, or ideally you would never say that. There's an exact spot for things. And again, that order that structure is very comforting to young children. And probably other teachers too. You might have other teachers in your classroom in and out, or even at home you might have somebody who assists you or whatever, or part-time people. The more structure you have, the better for them too. So don't place things, don't bring things in, don't put things up, don't have things unless you've really thought through the intention of where they're at, making sure they're getting used, they can be seen, they can be reached, and the children ideally are attracted to those things. Let's see. So really all of this is, I'm kind of looking at my notes here, really all of this is about creating independence and autonomy for the child, because when they get into the workplace as an adult, of course, they won't have people telling them where everything's at and how to do everything. Everybody's too busy, and they need you to be independent and try to do things and try to find things. And so particularly starting a new job, as many of you know, you have to be flexible in your thinking and think independently. And that sort of thinking and trait is really going away from our culture. So it's really important that we encourage that with our young people. Using work mats, using baskets and trays, things like that that can define space too, will protect materials. So if a child's getting out a math material, ideally they would put them on a rug or on a certain desk or something like that. It defines like, hey, this is my space right now. I'm going to be using this. Nobody step here, or nobody touch here, nobody sit at this seat. Almost all children really value and respect those boundaries that are set. Sometimes you can use name tags or other systems for marking area, but usually you don't have to. Most children like that. They like knowing that the materials are safe and that their space is safe, so that they can focus on learning. So back to the ordering on shelves, really you want to order them from the more simple to the more complex on a shelf. And it's not always quite like this, but I also from the concrete to the abstract. The concrete meaning the more hands-on, visual things that children work with to the more abstract. So like in math, if they're doing addition or something, maybe their stamp game or a bead bar box is to the left, and then to the right of that is more abstract, say paper or problems for them to practice doing that math without materials as they get older or more proficient. So, and usually it's also that aligns well with the earlier something is presented, or to the younger child or to the more beginning child with that skill, the more left it is too. So the more simple, the more concrete, and the earlier lesson to the left. And then as you move to the right and down across the shelf, a whole bookshelf or something, it gets more complex and more abstract. Keep your space clean. Again, teacher spaces, everything really matters. They notice that. Try to rotate materials. I'm looking through my notes to make sure I've gotten the main points. Make sure that your sort of consumables, if that is the right word, pencils, paper, things like that, have a clear spot, that they're in good spots. They're not in high traffic areas, or if you have, say, a single spot for somebody who gets distracted easily, make sure that's farther away from an area like pencils that might have a lot more traffic. So I think those are kind of the main points. I'm just going through a lot of hints and suggestions for that, but organizing all that is really important. Now, once you practice it over the years and years, you might have a pretty good idea. It might not take you 2 weeks before each school year, maybe just a week. I don't know, but depends on how well you upkeep things and how well you rotate materials. But the more you can prepare the environment, the better it'll be for everybody. Thanks for watching.